Hello，各位屏幕前的观众朋友们，大家好呀！欢迎来到 WTL 世界星际战队联赛季后赛的比赛直播现场，我是今天的主持人赤小兔。在这个夏日炎炎的暑假，我们又在这里和大家见面啦。那么在我们的正式比赛开始之前，我们有一个照例环节，就是我们星际老男孩的观众们一定都知道，吹出去的牛逼都是要还的。那么我们的大哥 F91以及我们的小色将会在今天和明天来对阵 CranKy 以及鹿特丹，为我们的季后赛来打响第一枪。希望他们好好表现，好好加油，千万不要输得太难看哦。今天孙哥第一个会来迎战，孙哥加油哦。那么接下来呢，我们就要把画面交给我们两位超级专业的解说，来有请。
And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back after a very long hiatus to World Team League WTL, the 2023 Summer Code S Playoffs, day number 1. I'm, of course, your live VIP, and with me, I'm joined by the one, the only, the casting jersey herself. I'm joined by Kuro.
Hello there. Yeah, I couldn't look. I was not going to cast today, but I saw what the ShowMatch is, and I mean, how could I not? How could I not?
Exactly. This was kind of out of the blue, out of left field. We were not aware. We had no idea that there was going to be a show match. It's not even on TL. TL is still scheduled. WTL is still scheduled to start in another 45 minutes. But apparently there is a show match. Not just any kind of show match, a very special one. One near and dear to our hearts from the origins of the CranKy Ducklings. It's going to be Crank. It's going to be J1 Choi.
Yeah, it's Crank versus F91. And for those who are not aware, the whole reason why our name is the CranKy Ducklings, it's because of Crank. Like, that's where we originated, and if not for Crank, like, none of this would be here.
Yeah, I know over the years, many, like, people have, like, popped into the chat before, and they're like, yo, I feel like the Ducks should be more angry, right? You're the CranKy Ducklings. Why is it not cranky? It's like, well, that's not what it means. It's not, it's a bit of a play on words there, because we are, of course, kids, sons, daughters, with a family of Crank in a way. Crank, for those who don't know, he was a member of Team Axiom many years ago. Axiom was the esports team of Total Biscuit back in the day. Crank was the captain, the coach, and of course a player as well for the team. I did used to stream in English many years ago as well. Many years ago, he streamed in English, and that is where we came from. That is where the CranKy Ducklings did come from, as his mascot was a duck. It was a duck.
Yeah, it's a great story because the mascot was completely random, and apparently he like won it at an arcade or something, and only Molly got it as a gift, and then it just was randomly on stream just because the wall looked empty, so he put something on the wall, and everybody just loved the duck. Everybody was in love with the duck.
It was a good duck. It was a very good duck. Very good duck.
I wonder if he still has it.
Yeah. I'm actually posting it in the chat right now. That is the original duck, the original CranKy Duckling, or the original Crank Duck. It wasn't even a CranKy Duckling back then. Is in the chat. Then we kind of took that. We went with it, and we kind of made our own team in tribute to Crank. We did become the CranKy Ducklings. We commissioned our own mascots. We commissioned our own logo and all that good stuff. And of course, we became the team that we are today. So we're totally not biased.
No, not at all.
Not biased at all in this show match.
Not at all. I mean, come on, it's not like I called Crank my brother, and don't worry about it.
And it's gonna be a lot of good fun here. So F91, he is actually one of the big names, one of the big people in the Chinese community, specifically in SC Boy. He's a big caster over in China.
Wait, why does it say I said calculation? Calculation, actually.
Oh, right. Calculation. Let's go. I'm sure there are a lot of memes that we don't know. So if you're maybe familiar with, especially some of the F91 memes, or even some of the other goings on here. Let us know some of the story behind this. For all we know, again, we're just jumping into a bit of a show match here. Both casters, of course. Crank, after being a pro player, after being a streamer, he did step into the role of being a big F91. He did step into a role of being a really big caster in the Korean scene. He's kind of very similar to Wardy in English, I guess. Wardy, he's a big community caster in the foreign scene, and Crank is kind of the equivalent in the Korean scene.
I like how Yaku is pointing out Casio F91, good calculator.
Let's go. Oh god. So yeah, they have kind of their studio set up as well. F91, of course, is going to be competing. I'm not actually sure how good F91 is as a player. I have no idea. So this is going to be kind of our first introduction to him, and we wish him the best of luck here, because Crank, even though he also hasn't been competing in a long time, ever since the show, ever since he was fielded a couple of weeks ago, I mean more than a month ago now, in WTL, he has been back on that grind. He has been practicing again.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, it's a thing. Like with anyone who has ever been competitive, like once you like light that spark, like they're not gonna let it go. So I mean, I guess he has been practicing, and if we remember, he only did because he was forced by Maru and Ryang. So those are pretty good players to be playing with if he does.
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks of the WTL round robin stage, both Maru and Ryang did kind of goad Crank into playing for the team, into competing in WTL, and as a result, he did practice in preparation for it. And here we go. We have the stats for all these players. We got a bunch of 5s and 4s. Oh, hello, F91.
Yeah, solid E. Great score.
I wonder where he gets his stats from. He's got a 2 in win rate on the left-hand side. He's got a 4 in consistently, a 4 in form.
How do they know what his form is? Is it like
yeah,
from
that's
the
what I
ladder?
mean. Like, what does...
Why does he have 4 in mentality? What happened? There's a fat duck.
Oh, it's a fat duck. Let's go. We have Crank now coming in as well, flaunting his lovely room. Not just the duck, he's also got like a big Ultralist. Where did the Ultralist come from?
I think that's also a Korean only merge, probably.
Yeah. Oh
my god. This does not look right. I think graphic people, I think you're asleep at the wheel a little bit.
I think they realized that they may have put the numbers in the wrong place or just gotten the graphic wrong. But regardless, Crank, of course, is going to be here competing as well, up against F91. The two casters are duking it out. This is not the first time that we've seen the casters face off, as we did have Onside versus Basilisk. The ace match was Roddy versus Crank as well.
Yeah, but question, why did Crank get 7 in micro specifically? Or was it supposed to be mentality?
It looks like mental, yeah.
Which one is right?
I mean, that's a good question, right? Like, Crank, I don't know. He's kind of one to smudge, if you remember back in the day. Yeah. Like, he can sometimes be hard on himself. So I don't know if 7 in mental would make too much sense. But we did see he was pretty micro-intensive when he was playing against Roddy. Like, I will say that.
Yeah, so maybe it was supposed to be micro, but I will agree that Crank was smudging before the term was a thing.
It's true. Before the term smudge was a reality, Crank would sometimes smudge after competing. But again, in general, though, he's a really positive person. So maybe they did kind of put that into mental for that reason. Like, Crank, he's very positive. He has a very wholesome stream. Very wholesome.
Yeah, definitely. And we are in game? As soon as my clean feed loads. Hold on. Okay, there we are. We're live. And we looking at our Terran player. What? What?
Oh, yeah, he's playing random.
I am so confused. Why does it show Protoss, though? Is it because of the overlays? I guess he is playing random.
It's random, yeah. Okay, so in the top left, we had Onside Gaming. We did have Crank, and in the bottom right-hand corner for Dragon Kaizi Gaming, it is F91. And Crank, he did used to stream random back in the day. Oh my god, F91 is going for a pool first opener, though.
Yeah, and as we start, we have a quick shout-out for... Onside Gaming, who gave 10 community subs. As a reminder, Onside Gaming is current team of Crank.
Thank you so much, Onside. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for the subs. Thank you so much for the support. And
yeah, so once again, no bias.
No bias, no bias. But best of luck. Best of luck in the playoffs here of WTL. I don't think we're going to be featuring Onside tonight. Yeah, they're not going to be playing tonight, but over the next couple of days, we will be featuring them here on the channel in World Team League. I'm just double checking. And F91, his main race is Zerg. He's main racing.
Okay, but question. Is Crank actually playing random, or was he coached by Maru and Riank and he just decided to play Terran?
We're gonna find out over the course of the series. We're gonna for now, yeah, I'm going to assume that he picked random, but we'll see. We'll see. As F91 with that pool first opener, he's going for a very fast Roach Warren, so he is not holding back here. I would say that Crank is coming in as the favored player, and F91 knows that, so he's coming out with some cheese.
We have a keyboard cam. Do you see? We had a keyboard cam for F91.
Yeah. Look at him typing away, look at him zooming. But yeah, so again, it's going to be on Crank to try and scout this ahead of time. Reaper is about to rock up, and it should see how late the hatchery is. So he now knows that it was a pool first opener, but how committed is the pool first? For now, Dark, not fully aware. Sorry, Crank, not fully aware.
Dark?
He's in the dark.
He is in the dark, and these two links are coming in, and they will bother this SCV a little bit. That actually delays the CC quite a lot, as the SCV has to move away completely, and Crank will have to deal with that. The Reaper is coming back to actually deal with the problem.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Reaper is going to be distracted by this Ling. This is the power of this opener, is that Lings distract the Reaper, and then the Roaches come in from behind. As I say that, though, F91 is droning behind this, so this is not the most committed Roach rush. He's only making, I believe, 3 Roaches for 3 Ravagers. He's going to deny mining at the natural base and macro from there.
Yeah, meanwhile, Crank is moving out with that Reaper, and he will finally be able to get a little bit of a scout, but can he notice these Roaches as they are already moving to his side of the map?
Yeah, exactly. And again, the goal here for Crank is going to be to minimize his losses. He should be evacuating the natural once he sees this, and he should be giving it up as the Reaper rocks up, does get eyes on the Roach one. Now Crank knows what's going on, as the Ravagers are already at his front door.
Yeah, he will be setting up this bunker, but he doesn't have anything to put in it yet, and the Ravagers are already just walking in. He has to completely give up on this frontal wall and move to the main base.
Yeah, the bunker was ambitious, and he's going to try to hold on to the low ground here. Boys are being pulled, the Hellions doing what they can, but we can see that the Hellions, they really just tickle these Ravagers.
I mean, they do, but they're actually getting decent damage together with the SCVs, and they were able to already deal with 2 of them, but not without losing SCVs with that.
Yeah, 4 SCVs went down, a couple of Hellions as well, so not a bad start for F91, but I'm sure he wanted a little bit more. I'm sure he wanted a little bit more damage here, as he's going to try to focus on another one of those Hellions, but he's going to lose everything.
Yeah, he is actually losing everything to the Hellions, and even the tree is on fire!
Tree was on fire, and Crank looking to try and punish his opponent. I don't know how I feel about this. So it looks like Crank is going for a follow-up Marine Hellbat push to try to counteract his opponent. The problem with this is that F91 does have Roaches available to him to defend.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not sure how that's gonna work, but to be fair, you say he has Roaches, but he's actually not making any. Like, he has a few that he already made, but there may not actually not be enough to stop this.
Yeah, it's on F91 to try to get a scout and figure out what's going on. Unfortunately, F91, his Overlord is being zoned away. His Overlord is stuck outside the natural and the main base, so he has no idea what is going on. Crank, he's intentionally hiding his Hellions. He's got a Liberator on the way, and as soon as he shuts down this Overlord, he's going to be rushing across the map. The Overlord trying desperately to survive, but it can't escape.
Yeah, it can escape and will be going down. F91 knows that something is up. He's trying to prepare his forces, but he only has these links to defend, and I guess we will see how that goes. With that many Hellions, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible to defend, but only if you have a higher queen count, if you don't have as many Roaches, and I don't know how many queens there are available. Only 2 here on the front lines. The Hellbats do reveal themselves immediately. F91 does pull back into his natural base. He's got more Roaches in production, more Lings as well. The queens are pulling together.
Yeah, the queens will be the defense line here, and they are trying to do their best, but already one of them falling down. There is no energy for transfuses, so it's just these queens as they are.
Yeah, but it looks like it is enough to push this back for the time being. Hellbats are getting picked off. It was a good trade against at least the Lings, but as we see, there were barely enough Roaches and Queens to hold on, so F91 is going to be able to establish himself from here.
Very nice that he was actually able to hold his base, but his third is under fire, but literally under fire. But it looks like he will be able to also hold off this attack.
Yeah, exactly. Again, these roaches, they do swat away the Hellbats. Lings are going for a counterattack as well. We can see Crank, he's going into mech. We have 2 more factories on the way and +1 vehicle armor. At the same time, the wall is not a wall.
Yeah, the wall is not the wall. The Lings go into the natural, into the main base, and now the SCVs will be falling down. At the same time, Crank is dealing with the army of F91 in the middle of the map, but that was just a few units, and he has more problems in his base.
Yeah, 9 SCVs are going to be going down. We still have Lings into the main as well. The Hellions were completely out of position and more SCVs are falling. This is becoming almost game-ending damage here with even some tech labs going down.
Yeah, so even the production will be delayed. Crank is dropping some mules, but the Lings are still in his base. This still hasn't been cleaned up.
Yeah, and eventually this will be, there we go, the Hellions do turn back around. Crank is going to be able to regain control of his main base and his natural. But on top of that, he just got scattered as well. F91, he's fully aware of the mech coming his way. He's got a decent worker count. He's on 63 drones. At this point, F91, I would say, is ahead.
Yeah, and as you said, like he did hold this attack, so he seems in pretty good position. He has these 4 bases droned up already, and I guess we'll see where he goes with it. He is still working on roaches, still getting more of those. He's getting on some upgrades, getting his lair, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, CranKy basically has to do his best, like, Ryung impression. And what I mean by that is that he has to really embrace his inner Terran, he has to embrace his inner mech, and turtle up. On top of that, I love this drop play as well. Like, he needs to harass, he needs to do some kind of economic damage across the map, as well as fortify himself back at home. And here we go, drones are getting roasted.
Yeah, there were basically no defenses at this base, and at the same time the Liberators is getting a few kills as well, and the Hellions are still there. 18 drones already falling down.
And just like that, Crank is back in this. He may have lost, what was that, 12 plus SCVs back at home, but he gets 18 kills across the map, and with that, he's actually looking to recover here. He still has to work on his tank count. That's his big issue right now, is that his tank count isn't looking too high, so he is a little bit vulnerable to a Roach counterattack, but these Hellions are hoping to keep F91 busy.
Meanwhile, Mix in the chat is saying Crank so handsome. I'm not sure if he's saying about the person or about his play, because I mean,
I think he's saying that because he's playing Terran. He's like, oh my god, has anyone else noticed how handsome Crank is looking today? Oh my god, he's have
you seen his Hellions?
His tanks, they're throbbing, they're so big. Oh my god.
Oh, no.
You're an animal, Migs, you're an animal.
Oh. Queen Feet, don't die on me.
As we are just going to be getting into the mid-game from this point, F91, any kind of momentum that he once had isn't quite there anymore. He's focusing on Roach production, but he is sipping out a Spire as well.
Yeah, indeed. I guess we'll see what he wants to do with this Spire. Like, do you think this is like Roach Muta?
I mean, mutas are a really good way to catch a meching player off guard because there's very little anti-air. There's only Hellions and tanks. There are no Thors. No Thors, no Vikings. Very little anti-air, no Cyclones either. If that Spire goes unscattered, then Crank could be in a lot of trouble to the mutas.
You say that, but Crank already has a missile turret here, so I think he's expecting something like this to be coming, but I don't know if he has turrets in his other bases as well.
That turret looks like a borrowed Roach turret. That
Maybe,
looks like
yeah.
He's just preparing for Tunneling Claw Roaches just in case. We do see a scan into the main base. Doesn't see the tech, doesn't see the Spire, so again, he still doesn't know that he needs to prepare himself for mutas. It does look like he only has a turret in between his bases, again, just in case something like that were to happen. And thankfully for Crank, F91 isn't making mutas yet.
Yeah, it looks like he's focusing on his ground army for now, getting more upgrades, but also starting on these upgrades for the air as well, so I guess we'll see what he wants to do with it, if he will indeed dive with this Mutasaur.
Yeah, exactly. For now, it may be possible he just wants to set up maybe a muta transition, a muta switch, after he just confirms the army and maybe forces a kind of composition out of his opponents. We do see Crank just poking and prodding wherever he can. We have another northern force of Hellions looking to get into a mineral line. F91, is he in position?
Well, the Lynx are in position here, but on the north, I don't think they are, but I think he spotted it as Crank went onto the cliff, but at the same time we have these Lynx and Roaches attacking the bases of Crank.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? There is no way in. The tank line was a little bit too solid at F91. He can't really touch the bases of Crank. Across the map, the Hellions do distract the main army. The Ling Roach army all came back home to deal with those Hellions. And the Hellion Rabbis are not stopping. They're not really doing a lot of damage, but again, they are just keeping F91 distracted while Crank maxes out.
Yeah, indeed. And they are distracting him quite well, as they will be taking a few more links with them, but all of them are being cleaned up, and now we have this Muta switch.
Yeah, 13 meters are on the way, and again, we don't have any anti-air other than Ghosts. Ghosts are coming out, and they're a good unit, yes. There are 2 Marines in the middle of this army, and that's kind of all we really have outside of that 1 turret. So this could really do some devastating damage. It could really get a lot of economic damage done as well, depending on kind of what Crank has back at home. We haven't quite seen a lot of the bases yet.
Yeah, we did not, and it looks like all the units of Crank are hugging the turret at all times, and yeah, I am afraid that F91 will be able to sneak those mutas into the main base, into the natural, and deal a lot of damage. But at the same time, so is Crank with these Hellions.
Yeah, these Hellions, they're getting so much damage. Meanwhile, tanks are getting caught off guard. 3 tanks are going to be going down for free. The power of the Muta, and immediately Thor production has commenced. Immediately, Crank is getting ready for some anti-air, but so much damage is going to be done before.
Oh yeah, all these tanks are going down. There is absolutely no anti-air there. There is a missile turret in the mineral line, so at least there's that. But there are so many mutas here that they may just not care.
Yeah, I think 5 tanks already went down. We're going to get a 6th tank, a Ghost as well. We can see more turrets being thrown down again. This was a massive... Oh, this completely blindsided Crank. He was not ready for mutas whatsoever, and he is falling apart.
Yeah, now the roaches are coming in to join the party, and there's not much to defend anymore. The tanks are all trying to gather together at the 3rd base, but the mutas are still there.
Yeah, the mutas, after killing 6 or 7 tanks, allow kind of an entryway here for the Roach Ravager. They just push right through the center of the map, pushing up into the main base. We do have Thors to defend. They don't do too poorly against Roach Ravager, but they're not the best unit for it, as we do see a mass repair on those Thors.
Yeah, mass repair, but already one of them is falling down. The second one is at half health. It will survive and it will deal with most of these roaches, but there have been so many losses already.
Yeah, 34 SCVs just went down. Even more tanks are falling to the mutas. The Thors arrived. The Thors are here, but again, they arrived a little bit too late. Even if they kill all these mutas now, the damage was done.
Yeah, the damage was done. Crank does not have a lot of workers. He does have mules, but they're not that good, and he's even losing this new CC.
Yeah, CC is going down. The Muta's still wreaking havoc in those mineral lines. Roach is pushing through the center. Not the best fight here for F91. There are tanks on the high ground, and the Thors are doing a decent job at just trying to buffer, but it looks like there is just too much Zerg. F91 is busting into the natural.
Yeah, that he is, and he's not stopping. There are no units. There's this one ghost trying desperately to fight. It's cloaked, so it's actually not being fought by the Zerg units, but I don't think it quite has enough firepower to fight the entire Zerg army on its own.
And GG, well played. F91 is going to be taking that first game. A very big back and forth, I will say, throughout the course of that, but the Muta switch did so well for him. Did win him the game in the end.
Yeah, it really did, and in the end, it overpowered Crank, and he did have to GG out, and you could see like both our players, like Crank having a bit of a shake, and F91 was just laughing. That's just laughing in the face of danger.
It's one of those things where in this matchup, especially in Mech versus Zerg, Crank, he was in a really good position. He was defending really well. His Hellion run-bys, his Hellion drops were doing so much damage. But it's just, he didn't see the Spire. That's all it is. He didn't see the Spire ahead of time, and he just wasn't ready for mutas at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, he had a few turrets, but not enough to fight an entire mutaflock. No Thors, no nothing, just the tanks, just the Hellions. Like, literally, we saw a few ghosts, 2 Marines. Like, yeah, that's not an army that can stop a muta attack.
Yeah, and that's something that you always have to bear in mind when you're going mech like that, is you need to, at a certain point, start incorporating some anti-air, even if you don't see a Spire, even if you don't really expect mutas to come out, you do still need that just in case the scenario were to occur, right? In case mutas pop up, at least you have 2, 3 Thors, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Crank is aware of that as well. Just, maybe tunnel visioning a little bit too much.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, now we will find out if this was actually a random play, or if he chose to play Terran. which one it will be.
Yeah, exactly. As we're going to be getting into game number 2. Again, it's a best of 3, and personally, I hope we get all 3 matches. Game 2 is on Altitude, game 3 is on Neo Humanity, and yeah, we'll see if CranKy is going to be whipping out the Terran, the Protoss, or the Zerg.
I can't remember what Crank plays as a Zerg. It's been so long.
It's been a
The only
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the only times I really see Crank playing Zerg was when somebody requested it and told him to play something stupid.
Well, I mean, I feel like that was the case for all of his races, really.
True.
Like, that was a big part of his stream.
But he did play Protoss in tournaments.
Yeah, of course. Protoss is definitely his main race for a reason. He has a lot more versatility with Protoss. But in the later years of his career, he did play a lot of random, and he streamed a lot of random. That was a big part of his stream. Viewers would kind of request strategies, and he would take them from the chat. And famously, he'd pop up on YouTube as well, doing things like that, just having these crazy strats.
Yeah, I feel like the most... I don't know if I want to say famous, but the most widespread clip of him was when somebody told him to play Hearthstone at the same time.
Yep.
He did that.
Yeah,
and he won
played
both.
Hearthstone. Yeah, he played Hearthstone and he played a ladder game at the same time, and he won both games. Really, really big video on YouTube. It was on Arena. I think it was on Arena. Very short rushes this map, and he healing rushed. Yeah.
I mean, like, he won them more or less at the same time, so it counts.
Yeah, he did.
As we are now on Altitude, and we have the Protoss player, the blue Protoss, representing on side. It is Crank.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have representing CranKy Gaming, F91.
Yeah, so this time, the main race for Crank, and we'll see what he can do. Okay, I want to see, is Crank gonna be cheesy? Because he has that in him. He has it in him to cheese, to cannon rush, but will he do it?
Yeah. On a map like Altitude, I doubt it. Especially kind of especially in honor of the show match, I'm sure he would want to go for a bit of a longer game. In saying that, F91 did just try to roach rush him, so
exactly.
it's clearly like no one is holding back in this series. And also, we still don't have confirmation if Crank picked Protoss and he picked Terran, or if he has been rolling random this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, both are entirely possible. I'm not sure what are the exact like rules on this show match, if the race picking is available or not. But it looks like for now, Crank at least forced F91 to take this unnatural, and actually free HP for pool.
Yeah, this is illegal. This is
This is illegal. Someone stop him.
Someone stop this man. Put him in handcuffs. F91 is going for a very greedy, very economic opener, going for a hatch before, or he went for a hatch into a gas geyser, into a spawning pool, a very late spawning pool, which means late lings, late queens. He has very little to work with back at home in the early game. And Crank, hopefully I don't know if he's going to be able to punish this. I don't think he's seen the third base, by the way. He saw the natural being taken, but I don't think he saw the base on the right-hand side.
No, I think he saw both, because he denied the natural, so he saw the drone going out of the base, so I think he may assume that there are 3 bases, but I don't know if he knows.
Yeah, so like that's something that is normal here. We see that a lot from Dark, where Dark, he sends his drone towards a third to fake out that he's taking it, so the probe chases it or the probe moves away. Then he just gets his natural up and running. So we'll see if Crank can piece it together, as we do have a first units on the way, first adepts. Meanwhile, F91, he isn't cutting any corners. We have 6 lings in production for F91, so taking this very seriously, making sure he doesn't lose too much.
Yeah, so the links are, I mean, at least Crank saw when the pool was, when the links are coming out, and these adepts will try to look for some damage or some scouting, but it has to be careful about these Zerglings. The second one is now joining in, and he finds the third base with a single drone on it.
Yeah, so he's gonna be looking to get some economic damage at least. Forces lost mining time. Queen does come out, and with that queen, we're gonna be able to shoo away these adepts for the time being. But we can bypass the queen. We can still find some workers.
Yeah, the queen is off creep, and the Zerglings will stop the adepts for now and may actually be able to take one of them down.
Yeah, we are trying to go for this round. We do manage to pick off one of those adepts, and with one adept going down, that means we no longer have that one-shot potential. Crank is not stopping, though. He did go for a Stargate opener. We have an Oracle on the way. The aggression will not end, and F91, he doesn't have the highest queen count at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's making spores. He is aware that he doesn't have the anti-air, and that's probably what's coming next from the Protoss, but yeah, if with some nice micro, Crank may be able to get quite a few drones on his way.
Yeah, exactly. Again, going for these spores is a great way to make up for the lack of queens that F91 has. And again, he doesn't have that many queens because he spent so much money on that gigafast third base. I think he's got one queen for each hatchery at the moment, as the Lings are going to be threatening across the map. Going to be trying to delay the third base of Crank if possible, as the Oracle is still going across the map.
Yeah, it does take a look at the third base, but sees the queens, sees the spores, and decides to go around and maybe see what else is there.
Oh yeah, exactly. As Lings do get across the map, and they do force a cancel on that pylon, so not too bad, as the Oracle is going to be sharking around looking for a way into the main base. But again, with the spores and these queens, one Oracle is not enough to get economic damage done.
Yeah, exactly. The second Oracle will be joining it though, and are getting a little bit damage on it, but 3 drones are going down.
Yeah, 3 drones, not too bad. Lings are having a hard time finding damage across the map. Meanwhile, Crank is working on his third Oracle, is working on his transition, which is that Forge and Twilight Council, so it's going to be +1, and I imagine Blink, but he could go into charge.
What if he goes DTs?
No.
Oh,
I mean, maybe later on.
With the Forge, probably it will be one of those, and we'll see which one he chooses, as he already has the 3 Oracles, and those will be a bit of a force that F91 has to be careful about. But oh, actually, Crank is losing a few drones to these Lings. I mean, probes.
Yeah, exactly. These things are finding quite a lot of damage here, catching these transferring workers. Another probe is going to be going down. So F91, he's doing quite a lot here. Why? Because the adepts are not back at home. They're across the map instead. Crank looking for his own economic damage.
Man, he doesn't get a lot though. He gets 1 drone. He's trying to fight the queen, but the other queens are there to help. Meanwhile, the adepts are falling, and now the probes are in danger.
Probes are in danger. We do see the Oracles getting across the map as well. Again, Crank, he wants to do economic damage across the map, but he's having a hard time doing so. He only gets 2 drones in total, and he loses 4 probes across the map.
Yeah, the adepts are being cleaned up as well. The Oracles have to move away. They are losing the energy. They are losing the health points. That Crank actually not able to get much.
Yeah, exactly. And we see what Crank is up to. He is gonna be, I mean, he recognizes that he's a little bit behind after losing all those workers, and all the Lings, they arrive once again to get even more economic damage done. Crank, he's going for a second Stargate, a fleet beacon. He's rushing into Skytoss.
Okay, no, see, he still has a decent income. Like, I don't know, when you say that, like, oh, he's losing a lot of probes, he's changing to Skytoss. I don't know if I like that, because Skytoss is generally fairly expensive.
It is pretty expensive, and it takes a long time to really get going. I'm really curious to see if Crank plans on being aggressive or not. My thought process here is that Crank is going to turtle up. Because he's lost a lot of momentum, he may just be giving up map control. He's going to be focusing on taking his 3rd base, on taking his 4th base, and just building up this Skytoss army. Very kind of mech-oriented, kind of like the previous game.
Are you saying that's his current playstyle? That's what he has become over the years?
So far, yes, yeah. That's what we see.
Guys, spam these pylons because Craig is supply blocked.
He is supply blocked. But there we go. 2 more carriers are on the way, +1 air attack as well. We can see Crank focusing on expanding, and he didn't go for a gateway explosion. So even though he got +1 and blink, again, he's more concerned with defending back at home, and he's finding some drones across the map though.
Yeah, exactly. Getting a few is always nice. There was even a transfer that he could have caught, but he did quite miss it, as at the same time he is being attacked at his third base.
Yeah, and there we go. The carrier, the first one, is revealed to the army of F91. He's already got a hydrogen. Spire is on the way. F91 is getting ready to deal with that Skytoss army. And CranKy's in a bit of danger here just because he was forced to show his hand a little bit early.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the build up, the Protoss, the Sky Army. And, okay, what do you think about going both Spire and Hydras, though?
Yeah, I mean, the Hydras are a bit of a stopgap here. They can work well in the mid game, but the Spire shows us that F91 is getting ready for the late game. He's like getting ready for that kind of end game kind of composition against full Skytoss. We'll see if we get there, as F91 is actually splitting up his army. He's going for mass harassment at the moment.
Yeah, the Lynx and the Roaches are going to the bases of Crank. The wall is a wall this time, so there will be no Ling run bys, but he does lose that 4th base.
Yeah, that was a kill, not a cancel on the 4th. At the same time, Lings go for a counterattack as well. They get the shield battery. They're going to be able to take down the pylon as well. Crank is just forced to stay back at home, and he still doesn't have a 4th base. The other really interesting thing that I do like is that Crank stopped carrier production. He has the money for it. He could make more carriers, but he isn't. He's going into ground toss.
Yeah, he's adding charge, he's adding more gateways, which should do great versus the Hydra list that F91 already has, but Crank is moving out, and I'm not sure how much he can get done right now.
Yeah, against Ling Hydra, this is I'm not too convinced by this push either. But Crank has to be very careful. I don't know if he's really expecting Hydras already going to be coming out, and here we go. F91 is going to dive on this army. He takes down the first carrier already.
Yeah, the carriers are pretty helpless as they're a bit too slow to outrun these carriers. At the same time, the Lynx are once again in the 3rd base of Crank, and probes are falling.
Yeah, probes are falling. Stalkers are getting picked off in their retreat as well. Crank, he doesn't have his 4th base up and running. He has no shield battery. He has no overcharge prepared for this. F91, he could keep pushing.
Yeah, and that he will, as the Lynx and the Hydras are walking into the 4th base once again cancelling it, and the Stalkers just cannot stop all the Lynx chasing them.
Yeah, exactly. And we do have another warping of Stalkers back at home. But against Ling Hydra, Stalkers, they are not the best unit. The 2nd carrier goes down. The Oracles as well. We have the overcharge, but it is not within range. It looks like F91 has too much.
Yeah, he's overpowering the army of Crank. The 3rd base is going down. The probes are going down. The Stalker army is basically no more. There are just a few of them left. There may be another warping, but I still think there's enough Hydras here.
Yeah, exactly. F91, he's not just broken the 4th, he's broken the 3rd, and he's pushing into the natural as well. Crank trying to warp him whatever he can, but GG is going to get called, and F91 with the pop-off does take the series 2-0. Is
it weird? Does F91 laughs like a villain?
Oh my god. Yeah, he was able to overcome Crank there, even his Protoss. What I will say is that game 1 was a lot closer, a lot more back and forth. Again, if it wasn't for the mutas, then Crank was honestly in a much more dominant position. Here in game number 2, though, Crank had a bit of a harder time trying to really assert himself and trying to really punish the greed of F91. Again, F91 went for such a greedy opener on altitude, but because the map is so large, it can be really hard to punish.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, that didn't work out for Crank, unfortunately. Very sad to see. I mean, he did try his best in these matches, and as you said, I'm still like, I feel like it like the 2nd game wasn't going that bad when like Crank had the carriers and he was like building up the army, and then he decided to attack. Like, Crank, no.
Yeah. I mean, he was trying to catch F91 off guard with his pants down a little bit. Little did he know that, I mean, there were already Hydras on the way, right? Like, even before the carriers got scattered, there was already the Hydrogen, you know? Like, it was something that was already being worked on. So, just an unfortunate attack there from Crank. But despite that, much love, much love to Crank. He has only been back to laddering and trying to improve again only recently, and I'm curious if we're going to be seeing a bit more of a trend, because he's been playing a lot this WTL season now. He's played like maybe 3 times on stage, so
I was gonna say, like, because for those who don't know, like, for the past few years, like, Crank has been mainly a caster. Like, he still plays the game because I do see him streaming the game, but like, for the most part, he is a caster. He's a variety streamer as well in Korean, and he's not as much of a player anymore. He has retired years ago, but this year we see him back to playing a lot, and I really like it's that specific type of like competitiveness where like he knows that he's not a top player anymore. Like he's not even like average player anymore. Like he's a caster. But like he has this spark of I'm gonna play. Like I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna lose horribly, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah, exactly. Like Crank, we all know that he has that drive in him, and I'm really curious to see if he's going to actually put in the work and try to actually invest a lot more time to improving as a player. Time will tell definitely with that.
Why would Oliver
we'll see if he tries to we'll try to see if he does relive the glory days there. So if he does, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Big fan of Crank, of course. Big fan of Crank, and always looking forward to see more of him.
Yeah, as I said, like I really like that he's been popping up more and more lately. Like he has this, like, especially when he played versus Rotterdam, when they were like, "Come on, let's play." Like apparently that was Crank's idea to play versus Rotterdam in the ace match. So I really like that approach, and yeah, maybe it will make him actually like start to compete a bit again. Yeah,
exactly. So. Until then, though, that is the end of this show match, and this is really just the preamble. This is really just the entree here to the main event, to day one of the playoffs of World Team League. Ahead of us, we have a lot of matches coming up. We are going to be kicking things off with Platinum Heroes versus the Starving Camels versus SSLD. And the winner goes up against Abydos as well. Meanwhile, we're going to be going on a break. We're going to be having an interview, so we're going to be heading off here for a little bit. We're going to be hearing from F91. We're probably not going to come back until the rest of the event starts, but enjoy.
See you soon.
毕竟我准备了2天时间，我说2天时间，我看了他一些以前直播的视频，然后发现他最近都在打人组嘛，我就感觉他应该会用人组跟我打。然后第二盘他用神组，其实我也研究了一下，对不对？然后他的这些打法就相对来说比较奇葩一点。反正总的来说还是打铁还需自身硬，用行动证明实力。
是的，有备而来啊！差一点他就要成为我第3讨厌的选手，太可惜了。那问一下孙哥，其实，在第1把的时候，你是抓住了一个对面还没有起这个对空的 timing， 出了这个飞龙麒麟怎么输？当时这个 timing 是自己当时是一个什么预判去感觉到的呢？
如果他的分数没在5500分以上的话，他是不可能知道我这波飞龙的，因为我前面其实戏做的很足，然后飞龙的这个意图也隐藏的非常好。我把这个我变的这些火蟑螂也是来引诱他觉得我纯走地面的，这一切都是在计算之中的，
都在哥的计算之中是吧？哦，孙哥有实力啊！那第2把孙哥其实是一个裸3开，算是一个比较偷，然后还是被偷出来了，这个也是你计划内的吗？
有2种变化吧，因为如果他上来是封我矿的话，我就会裸3开；如果他上来是不封我矿，我就会搞一个2矿刺蛇开3矿这样的一个战术，前期去压制他。这个战术都是赛前都制定好的。
哇，孙哥真太强了！就我们感觉今天的你跟平时完全不一样。你平时直播是在装菜吗？你是不是在演我们？平时直播摸戒指，你知道吗 ？Sad 在解说台上说，他竟然把钱给用完了。你平时是不是在摸戒指？
也不算吧，因为比赛的话会相对来说比较专注一些，平时天梯的话就打得比较随意一点，所以说天梯分是没有用的，还是要看比赛。
比赛还不是我赢，对吧？天梯分高有什么用？比赛还不是我赢。那最后呢，就是黄哥明天要对阵鹿特丹了，来对你的好兄弟黄旭东送上一些祝福和鼓励吧。
我觉得没有必要说祝福鼓励，因为他上次也赢了嘛，这次他也是准备了一段时间的，所以我相信他明天还是会轻松的拿下这个鹿特丹。
是的，今天连孙哥都赢了，那黄哥明天一定可以拿下，让我们一起期待黄哥明天的表现。
黄哥加油！
黄哥加油哦！那我们的采访环节到这边告一段落，休息一下，马上回来。